Cool, nice. Sweet guys. Well, welcome everyone to our workshop on how you can inject AI into your business critical workflows. Today we'll be kind of talking you through a very simple 5-step framework for transforming your business with AI. It's a topic no one seems to be able to shut up about, but in reality, from at least from my experience, few people are actually using really for great use cases in their business. And so I thought it'd be really useful to put together a bit of a workshop and kind of discuss those ideas and look at some use cases. The idea here is to just cover some real life use cases in the context of an example business. And at the end, we'll hopefully have some time to help one of you on the call today with a real life problem that you're dealing with. We'll be answering questions as we go. If you hit the bottom right of this call, you'll see the dots. If you click on there, there is a Q&A section where you can drop your questions in. We might pick them up as we go, but we also have some dedicated time at the very end to kind of go through some of those questions that you raise. No silly questions, please ask away if you're thinking it. I'm sure other people are as well. So voice any questions you've got there. Cool. So who are we and why are we qualified to talk about this, integrating AI into business? Well, the truth is I'm not really. My name's Andy. I'm the founder of a recruitment and employer of record agency called HotSourced. We help UK businesses to find and employ remote staff overseas in South Africa, India for a fraction across the UK. So it's not an AI product nor am I an AI researcher by any means, but I've had the benefit of starting my business 2 years ago at a time when AI had just launched. So I've had the advantage of building out that business and the processes in that involved from scratch with AI in mind at every step of the way. And I think we've quite successfully integrated AI into quite key processes internally, which are making a real difference for us as a business. We've still got loads to do, loads to learn. And that's why I had the idea for running this session and reaching out to Joel. And Joel is the founder of TrueBricks, which is an AI automation product. So this is really his domain, and he's the real qualified expert here to be talking on this matter. But Joel, I'll let you fully introduce yourself.
Cool. Cheers, Andy. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. So to give some background on myself, so I've been in the AI industry for about the last 7 years, basically building and selling AI products across a whole range of different industries, so including financial services, pharma and real estate, and across a whole range of different company types as well, from small startups to larger enterprises. And as Andy mentioned, I'm currently running TrueBricks, which is an AI automation business. So essentially I've been involved in supporting many AI initiatives across these businesses and have really seen firsthand what it takes to successfully implement an AI project, as well as some of the key challenges which go with that too. So yeah, I guess with AI really coming into the mainstream media over the last couple of years, I'm really seeing more and more companies having the mandate to do more with AI, but people are really unsure where to start. So we wanted to put together this webinar showing a practical framework and then some real examples of how you can really quickly and easily implement AI actually into your business without being an expert. So just to start, yeah, I wanted to debunk a few of the big myths that we typically see. So the first one, we have to train our own model, and that takes months and costs millions. So yes, to build an AI model, you do need to train it, and we'll see in the news companies like OpenAI or Anthropic or other companies spending millions, if not tens or hundreds of millions, training their own AI models. But they've basically done all of the hard work for you. So for most AI projects now that you want to be implementing within your business, we can leverage the models which these big companies are building. So you really don't need to train your own. And there's some clever tricks which we're going to show you today on how you can tailor these models to your business. The next myth is I need to hire engineers to use AI. So going back to the first point, since we can now leverage these models from companies like OpenAI, this has really lowered the barrier to entry for implementing AI. And you no longer really need, big data engineering or data science teams. And additionally, with some of the no-code and low-code tools which are being released, that enables non-technical business teams to basically be able to build automations or applications without having to write any code. And then finally, AI is the silver bullet that will solve all of my problems. As much as I'd like it to be, unfortunately, this just isn't true. AI is just like any other new technology that needs to be implemented into your business for a clear reason and to solve a clear business problem, of which AI may be one solution to that problem, but it's certainly not the solution that's going to solve all of your worries. So I guess my take home here is, we've been told that AI is this super intelligent, complex, and scary thing, but it's actually really super simple to get started using AI and start implementing it within your business to streamline some of your business processes. So just to give you a quick idea on where AI can streamline your business, here are a few examples on some of the areas where I've worked with some organization implementing AI across places like customer services, recruitment, and operations. I won't bore you going through this big list because we want to get onto the practical stuff, but hopefully this gives you some initial ideas of where AI can help your business. So diving into the framework, we've come up with this 5-step framework, which we typically run through when working with new clients to enable them to implement AI workflows within their business. An AI workflow, by the way, is essentially just a process or a business process that you're using AI to complete or carry out. So step 1 of the framework is to start with the business goal. So as I mentioned already, just like with any new technology, you need to first just think about, okay, what is the business problem, pain points, or goal that I'm trying to solve? And then AI should just be one of the possible potential solutions to fulfill that goal. Once you have your business goal, you need to then identify the business processes that align with that goal. So here, start thinking about what are the repetitive or manual tasks that you or your team do or are required to do to carry out that goal. How long or how often do they do this task, and how valuable is this task? So ideally, you want to be able to identify here high value and then highly time consuming tasks, which we can then focus on creating an AI workflow for. Step 3 is to lock in the KPI. So we want to choose one measurable metric here that your executive team would care about, the keyword being measurable. This should really directly tie back to the business goal. With AI workflows, there's an easy start, sort of starting to think about, okay, what are the time savings or the efficiency gains of me streamlining this process? But you should then also try to think about what's the downstream impact of that time savings. So with all of this additional time that my team has, how's that going to impact revenue growth? Step 4, fun bit. So build a fast pilot. So for me, at least here, it's really easy to get overly excited and carried away and start trying to build out the most complex thing possible. But it's really important here to just reduce as much complexity as possible. You should really be aiming to build and release a fast pilot within 1 to 2 days. And that is now possible with some of the tools which we're going to run you through and show you today. And then finally, you want to use that metric or KPI, which you define in step 3, to then measure the ROI of your pilot. You can then either iterate on your pilot to improve it and increase that ROI, or if you're happy with the results, then scale it further across the business. So that's the framework. I think Andy's just going to cover a case study, which we're then going to be using to run this framework against.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Yeah, we obviously want to make this session as practical as possible, look at some real life use cases and kind of avoid any waffly jargon. So I wanted to introduce you quickly to Sarah Jane. Sarah is the founder and managing director of a UK recruitment agency called Recruity Squared, who places HR professionals. She has a team of 20 staff, billing 2.4 million a year in revenue. And although this is a fictional case study, the workflows that we're going to show you are genuine workflows that Joel and myself have implemented in our businesses and others. So yeah. She's pretty ambitious, Sarah. She's got some pretty big targets for the next 12 months. She wants to grow her revenue by 25% from 2.4 to 3 mil a year. And she wants to do that while holding her headcount at 20 and only adding an additional £100,000 a year in additional costs, which is pretty minor considering the increase in revenue. If she can deliver on that, her operating profit will jump from 17% to 30%, which is a pretty ambitious jump to do in a single year. So I think this is kind of the ideal situation that a lot of you guys will be in, which you can only, some of this is pretty dreamy ambitions to be able to hit over the next 12 months.
Cool. Cheers, Andy. So applying the 5-step framework to this. So step 1 is defining the business goal. So with this case study, it's pretty clear that Sarah's business goal is to grow revenue by 25% without adding any additional hires. So once we have the business goal, we now have to think about the business processes which align with this goal. Growing revenue, the first obvious place to look is the sales team. So Recruity identified that their 2 SDRs were primarily spending all of their time on qualifying inbound leads and almost no time at all actually doing outbounding to source new leads or opportunities for the company. So it's decided to really focus on this workflow within the business and create an AI workflow to automatically inbound qualified leads, freeing up time for the SDRs. So this is a great use case for AI because it's high volume, time consuming with a lot of repetitive and repeatable steps within the research process. And there is a nice and measurable outcome by streamlining this process. So speaking of the measurable outcome, step 3, locking in the KPIs. So the first place to look is the efficiency gains. So how many hours can we save for the SDRs by actually streamlining this process? Once we have this efficiency gain, we can then think about what the revenue impact is of streamlining this process. So what can the SDRs actually do with the additional hours? Okay, so it was decided they'd be able to then focus on outbound sales and generating new leads for the company. So the clear metric or KPI is the revenue boost per SDR from the additional outbound leads. Cool. So now we have the business goal, the process, and the measurable KPI. We can dive onto the fun part, which is actually building out the fast pilot. So for this use case, we broke it down into 2 stages. The first stage was to build what's called a custom GPT for Recruity. So what a few people don't know is you can actually really easily take ChatGPT and customize that to your business or organization by providing it a really a specific set of instructions for a task, as well as a set of data to help it carry out that task. So for Recruity, we wanted to build a custom GPT, which would essentially help an SDR take a new lead, so taking their name, company, and email address. And then the custom GPT would do all of the research process for that SDR and the initial qualification. So it would take the lead, search the internet and the company for the company and the lead LinkedIn, and provide a summary back to the SDR, as well as its conclusion on the qualification criteria. So to do that and to build this custom GPT, we essentially take OpenAI's standard model. Currently, it's GPT-5. We then provide it with what's called a system prompt, which is basically a set of instructions to carry out a task. So in this case, the instructions are something along the lines of, you're an inbound lead qualification bot. I'm going to give you a lead and I want you to research and qualify it. We then provide the GPT with a set of knowledge. So in this case, this is all of the sales collateral for Recruity, providing it with more information about the company and I guess the types of deals that Recruity does. In here, we have the sales deck, the FAQs, and then the qualification criteria. Just to show you the qualification criteria, it's essentially a set of 4 simple questions around, is there a clear hiring need? Is the lead a decision maker? Is there a budget? And is the opportunity within the company's core focus or the typical types of sales that they do? And then finally, we provide Recruity with a set of tools. So in this case, the ability to search the web. This helps Recruity basically take the lead, find the company details, the LinkedIn details, and so on to do all of the manual research, which the SDR would typically have to do. So to show you what this looks like in practice, So I flick onto the tab. So we can see here, this is final Recruitee GPT product. And essentially this is the tailored and customized version of ChatGPT to Recruitee. So I can add in here some details about a new lead, which you can imagine may have come in through a new lead submission on the website. You can see here Recruitee's now searching the web for that lead. So looking at things like the hot sourced website, LinkedIn, and other sources. And we're then outputted with a 2-sentence summary of the company, 2-sentence summary of the lead, as well as then those 4 qualification criteria with some conclusions and notes against each criteria in here. So we can see, okay, there is a clear hiring need for hot source. Andy is the decision maker. The opportunity is within our remit, but we need to maybe just clarify a bit more around budget or the willingness to use an external agency. Recruitee also suggests some follow-up actions too. So as you can see here, this massively streamlines the SDR process of before having to actually go onto Google, go onto this company's website, make all these conclusions and summaries themselves. It's all provided for you and provided with the actual sources to the information too, which is great. So to build this, you do need the paid for version of ChatGPT. It costs $20 per month. I'm not an OpenAI salesperson, but I would highly recommend getting the paid for version of ChatGPT. Makes the whole experience so much more powerful. But one of the things which comes with that is the ability to create these custom GPTs. So over here in the left-hand menu, you can simply just click on GPTs, hit either create or my GPTs. I'll go on my GPTs to show you this one in detail. And then you'll be shown a configuration page, which looks something similar to this, where you can literally just give your custom GPT a name, a set of instructions, the knowledge. So this is all that sales collateral, and then select which tools you'd like to give to GPT. And the instructions here that we've provided, so these are the system prompt. I generated this also with ChatGPT, so you don't need to be an expert in writing these system prompts. You can literally go onto ChatGPT and explain what you're wanting to build and ask it to generate the system prompt for you. And that'll build out a pretty good solid first draft of the prompt itself. So this in total, if you have the collateral already, can take you maximum about half an hour, or a max if you're really painstakingly going over it, about an hour to actually build.
We had a question, Joel, from Laura.
Sure.
Can you provide the custom GPT with the login details to hotsourced/behind paywall or requiring login details?
Sure. So with this custom GPT, that would be this would be, I guess, typically used more of an internal tool for the SDRs to use. I'll have to double check, but there are team licenses of ChatGPT Enterprise as well. And I'm assuming then that would be tied into your single sign-on. So your SDRs would sign in through OpenAI into your organization's account, where they can then access the custom GPT. Alternatively, which we'll show you in a minute, you can also call this GPT externally, which you could build an app interface for.
Another question from Danielle. I thought GPTs were all public, so would it be really suitable for internal workflows like this? It's a good question.
It's a good question. Yeah, so if you're building them onto the paid license, they can then be saved internally. So if I update here, will be shown there's the ability basically to share publicly or to keep the link internal.
Cool. I'm glad you knew the answer to that, because I didn't. Thanks, Danielle. It's a good question.
So,
and maybe that actually also partly answers Laura as well. Laura, I hope we answered your question there.
So we can see here, sorry, the Recruitee GPT is invite only, but I could make this externally accessible.
Okay, I think that, yeah, cool. We're good. And someone else asked if we'll be sharing a video of this presentation at the end. We will be doing that. So I should have clarified that at the beginning.
Cool. Okay, so once the Recruitee custom GPT was configured and tested, I guess this really helped the SDRs to gain confidence in a AI-driven solution, because the SDRs were still really within the driver's seat here, where they were able to add the lead themselves to the custom GPT, see the output being generated, and then do something or make some decision with that output. This then helps actually increase the confidence in an AI workflow. So next, we wanted to then take a step further by, I guess, automating 95% of the workflow itself. So we did this by first taking the custom GPT, which we just created, and then build essentially a full qualification workflow around this. So what this does, we're monitoring, in this case now, my Gmail inbox for a new inbound lead being submitted, which we can see should look something like this. So you can imagine when a form is submitted through a website or a webinar sign up, for example, you then have a notification email which comes through providing the lead information and the new lead submission. We take that lead, essentially then pass that automatically onto the Recruiter GPT, which we've set up to do the lead research and company, qualify the lead itself, and then draft an email response back to the lead. We then store that draft response in the thread for the new lead submission for the SDR to then be able to review and then send. So again, here we're keeping what's called the human in the loop. So the SDR is really at the end of that approval process, which essentially just helps build a lot of confidence within the process itself and lets everyone sleep easy at night, that the AI isn't wild, just completely automatically responding to their leads. But also just gives the SDRs the oversight of the actual research to help them approve or tweak any messaging that comes through. So to build this workflow, there's loads of different no-code workflow tools out there which you can build, which you can basically build automations or workflows without having to write a single line of code. I chose NA10 for this workflow. This is what it looks like. So essentially you have all of these blocks, which you can then just tie up into the workflow, which I just showed on the Google Slides. So we can see here, monitoring the Gmail for when a new email comes in. If that new email is a new lead email, we can then get the info. And then we use OpenAI to research the lead and qualify the lead. And then finally, we then generate the response email, which we then save as a draft back in the Gmail thread. So just a note here, this is using all of the same configuration as the custom GPT. For those of you who might be a bit more technical, custom GPTs you can't actually access via API at the current point in time, but we use all of the same system prompts and everything that we did with the custom GPT just within this NA10 block, which makes it super simple to just translate that setup across. What that results in should be something that looks like this, where, okay, we now see for that new lead submission which came through, we have the draft email attached. Zoom in. And so what we provided here is first all of the research that we saw in the custom GPT originally. So the SDR is able to then just quickly review the company, the lead, and the findings on the qualification criteria, and then review the draft email, which is then being sent back to the lead itself. So the SDR in here can obviously just make any final tweaks and delete the research itself. And then once they're happy, just send this straight back to the lead, which just came in. So we can see here how this really streamlines the whole process, enabling the SDR to just give a quick overview and understanding on the lead before then replying to them, instead of having to do all of that manual research themselves.
Awesome. One other really good question from Sarah is, if you're uploading proprietary docs for knowledge, is this secure in terms of ChatGPT utilizing the information you're uploading to learn from and potentially serve the info in answers / service to others?
Yeah, so really good question. This is a good use case here with sales, because we're using all the information which is already publicly available. So things like sales deck, FAQs, these are not
generally on your website already.
Yeah, they're not confidential documents or information. So definitely as a starting point, I would just think about the information you are giving to the to your custom GPTs. There are then obviously more locked down, more secure versions of tools like OpenAI, but they are more expensive. Or alternatively, if you're using Microsoft internally, Microsoft have a lot more secure versions of the OpenAI models running on their under their security, basically. So they'll be locked down to your organization. Yeah.
What I'm getting for that, Sarah, is if you have something particularly sensitive, you should probably look at alternative models to the standard chat GPT models. There are certain models which have higher security protocols which will safeguard your information better. So it's one to be cautious of. If it's not that sensitive, then chat GPT is probably fine. But if it is, there are other models out there that you can use in a similar way to how Joel's just demoed now.
Yeah. And yeah, a lot of people that I do speak to, just to reiterate as well, are sort of Microsoft shops internally. So definitely check out their solutions too, because it's all then on your own enterprise.
Cool.
Brilliant. So what were the results of streamlining this inbound lead process? So before AI, it was basically taking SDRs on average 2.5 hours to manually research new leads, qualify them against a set of criteria, and then complete the whole follow-up process to actually qualify that lead. Recruity had a fairly healthy inbound lead traffic of getting 28 leads per week, which in total was 70 hours a week that these two SDRs were spending on qualifying inbound leads, so the majority of their working week. After this automation was set up, so post AI, the inbound lead qualification process took a maximum of 15 minutes, as the SDR now just has to review the research, make any tweaks, and send that email. So this saved on average 63 hours per week to enable the SDRs to focus now on outbound sales and generating new leads coming in. So this generated approximately 7 new outbound deals per month, and with a average number of hires per deal of 3, this generated an additional of 20 roles per month that recruiting needs to hire. So we've seen how recruiting is really able to streamline the sales operations with AI to bring in new opportunities. And yeah, Andy's now going to run through how they make these new hires with AI.
Cool. So I'm just going to take over sharing screen, Joel.
I will stop presenting. Yeah.
Cool. Is that showing up for you guys? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So they're getting in the new roles. The sales team have increased their output, but obviously it's not just sales. Once those roles new come in, the recruiters actually have to get to work on them. So how can Sarah figure out with her recruitment team on how to deliver all that additional work without increasing the number of recruiters, which obviously was one of Sarah's original goals? So going back to our 5-step framework with our goal already in mind, this time we're going to look at the recruitment workflow. And we've just kind of mapped out what the recruitment team typically go for pretty much all their roles. Now, our KPI here is similar to the sales, is time spent per role for each recruiter working on each role. And with that KPI in mind, it's not particularly difficult to do a very basic audit, get some information, some data on how long it takes the recruiters to do each of their tasks in their workflow. And we can see here that the technical assessment stage, marking those, there's over 1,500 per role that we typically get on average. And that takes about a minute to mark at least for each one. So that's 25 hours of work just spent on technical assessment marking. And that pushes up the total time per role for a recruiter to 57 hours. So that's a pretty obvious place to start. And so that's what we'll look at with our AI integration here to see if we can automate this and speed things up. So looking at this and coming back to the next stage, it's just to build a fast pilot. I took a very different approach to Joel, and that's why we thought it was worth walking through. What we looked at was using probably the most basic tool we could find, which was just simply a Google form. In our Google form, we created the technical assessments with multiple choice options. These are actually very fast to mark, so that wasn't the main issue or main need for AI. but it was the free text answers. These are questions where we're asking the candidates to write longer form answers to things that are going to test their written communication and English fluency. And so that was what was taking the recruiters time to mark. And we did this in a Google form. We paid for a little add-on that has like a time limit, so it feels more like a test. And then we hooked up the responses to a Google Sheet, which you can do natively in Google Forms. And that was coming through to a Google Sheet here. Each row you can see is an applicant who submitted an assessment round. Through this, their responses were coming through with their answers to each of these questions. So how can we then send these questions to OpenAI, to ChatGPT, to get it to mark and score this so that the recruiters don't have to do it by hand? Well, we can do that in Google Sheets. There's an extension called AppScript. And in AppScript, when you open this up, you'll be able to write, effectively AppScript allows you to write custom code, which you can then set instructions in to action on the Google Sheet itself. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, I thought I didn't need to know how to use code. I am an idiot and I can't write any code. I've never written a line of code in my life. And so this code that you're looking at right here, which does this instruction to send this instruction to OpenAI, was written with ChatGPT initially. And it did take me a couple of hours to troubleshoot. The initial round had some bugs and we diagnosed that. And so it did take some time, but we got to a point where we had a chunk of code here that actually does this API call to OpenAI. And that's what this code does. It effectively runs an API call to OpenAI's ChatGPT model. For those who are less tech savvy, an API call is simply a way for two systems to speak to each other. Effectively, you need an API key, which you can get as a pro user on ChatGPT. Other models also have API keys as well. And what that does is allow us to transfer information to OpenAI and run a prompt. And effectively, we just write a prompt here like we would if we were using it normally as an interface. And in here, we've got the variables of the question in question and the candidate's answer and an example answer to help ChatGPT mark it against. And what that means is we also now in prompt, we also ask ChatGPT to send back a score from 0 to 5. And what that means is these answers are being sent off to ChatGPT with a marking rubric, and we're getting a score back out of 5 for that question. And then that allows us to tally up and pass or fail depending on how the recruiter wants to run this particular technical assessment. And what that means for us is we've slashed that time down to mark from 25 hours down to 5 hours, which is a huge improvement for the team. They do still some manual reviewing. As Joel mentioned, we keep humans in the loop to make sure we're double checking that the marking is running properly. So there is some time commitment there, but this is a huge time saving. And across a recruiter, previously, before we had this, it was 57 hours per role, which meant a recruiter can only fill just over 3 roles a month. And that was meant they can only bill out about 20 grand a month. But with this workflow and that time spent reduced, we can now bill 30 grand on average per recruiter. And if we multiply that across Sarah's 12-man recruitment team, the effect is enormous. It means that they can deliver that extra revenue growth that Joel's automation that he showed us is bringing in terms of sales. And she can now be in a position to deliver on that 3 million target for revenue. So we've shown with this workflow really demonstrable return on investment. So how do we scale this to the next level? Because practically using a Google Sheet for such scale across a 12-man recruitment team is obviously not the best interface. So how can we scale this in a way that makes sense for us as a business and for Sarah? And the way that we did that was using a no-code platform called Bubble to basically build a very basic interface or web application interface, which effectively replicated everything we were doing in the Google Sheet, but just making it really simple and adding a little bit of functionality and a little bit of good UX design to make it really easy to navigate for any recruiter joining the team. And effectively, it does the same thing. We are scoring technical assessments being completed on a kind of form front. There are plenty of other platforms to build without code on. Bubble's one, but there's other ones like Replit, Cursor, Lovable, which are enabling you to write code with an AI Copilot. very easily, or build without code at all entirely. So it's a really good option to actually scale up your AI automation to the next level if it justifies the investment. So overall, with these two automations, we've been able to deliver on that growth target without adding headcount. So mission accomplished for Sarah and her business, which is epic. Over to Joel.
Cool. Cheers, Andy. Yeah, so I hope that's given you guys some, I guess, some practical examples of how you can start thinking about implementing AI into your business. We just wanted to cover two really key lessons that both myself and Andy learned when building out these workflows. So first one is keeping the human in the loop. So as I mentioned within the SDR use case, just not diving in and deciding to automate a process to 100% is a really key learning, where keeping the key people as sort of approvers throughout that workflow just really helps build confidence and trust within the workflow, which ultimately just leads to way more adoption. I've seen people go all in trying to automate a process 100%, but then the first question is, well, how do we know this thing's doing what it should be doing? And without those approval workflows, it can just really impact that business adoption. The second lesson, slightly similar, but during the pilot phase, you really want to give the users access to improving that system prompt or the set of instructions. This is because unless you're the person on the ground, be it the recruiter or the salesperson or whoever it might be, you don't have all of the domain knowledge or the little nuances about their day-to-day on what they're doing on their individual tasks. And so giving them the ability to, when they're using the pilot, tweak things and make little changes to the custom GPT or the marking rubric in Andy's case, basically helps them download all of that information in their brain into their AI system, which just massively improves the quality of the system overall.
Yeah, I think I'd add to that in the sense that one of the lessons that I learned with the marking was, initially when we launched it, the recruiters didn't want to use it because it wasn't marking how they would mark it. And because I was busy with other things, every time they noticed there was an issue, they just said, oh, it doesn't work. But when I trained them on how to actually edit the system prompts and update those instructions, whether it's on the custom GPT or whether it's on the prompt that I showed you that I did on AppScript, having them have the ability and confidence to edit that prompt directly will massively speed up the iteration process for getting to a prompt that works really, really well for your use case. So because they're looking at it day in, day out and being like, oh, I wouldn't have scored at that. That's not how I would have done it. That's not the output I wanted. Challenge them to think about why it didn't work like that, what set of instructions would have generated that output, and can we make those changes to the system prompts or instructions that we've got and we're feeding to AI to improve that output and outcome. So I've very much experienced that myself when doing this.
Cool. And yeah, I guess here's just a quick list of some of the different tools that we used. And so you guys, honestly, you can sign up to these tools. They're pretty low cost. Lots of them are free trials. You can really just get stuck in with trying to build out some of these AI solutions for your business using the 5-step framework that we've gone through, as well as some of these tools here. So yeah, don't think we need to go into loads of detail on these, but these are basically broken down into the workflow automation tools, obviously the AI models themselves. Should probably have added a Microsoft in there too. But that's all good. And then your no-code app builders as well. Cool. So now it is your turn. So we've shown you how recruitees powered their business with AI. We're going to just do this quick workshop now, where I'm going to give everyone a couple of minutes to run through these questions and yeah, basically identify a potential AI opportunity for your organization. So start off by writing down your business goal. Hopefully this is top of mind, but basically, what are you trying to achieve this quarter or year or whatever it might be? Then start thinking about and write down the repetitive tasks required to complete that goal. And then for each task, just estimate, doesn't need to be a rough science, but how much time does that individual task take you? How often do your team do that task? You can do this either each week or each month. And then on a scale of 1 to 5, how valuable is that task? 5 being very valuable. when you have these numbers, multiply them all together, and that should hopefully identify your highest value AI opportunity. And feel free to share your AI opportunity in the chat, and myself and Andy will hopefully go through them and pick a couple apart. So yeah, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to do that. Maybe in the meantime, we can cover a couple of questions as well.
While you guys do that, yeah, we'll go through some of the questions. So I had a few more come in. So we had one from Anonymous. This is fantastic. At what point in scale does this become really optimal?
Yeah,
it's a big question.
So yeah, so I think obviously it really depends on the use case. Hopefully with this exercise, which we currently have on the screen, this can help you really start to think about that a little bit more. So without giving you a specific number and giving you a politician's answer, you basically want to be identifying a workflow or a process which you are regularly doing, or somebody is regularly doing, and is regularly costing them some time. So if it's an automation if it's a workflow which takes you an hour or two, but you only do it once every quarter, then it's probably not really worthwhile actually automating that. If it's something which somebody is carrying out each week or each day, and it's fairly time consuming, that's really where we need to start considering some AI automation. Additionally, the actual value of that workflow comes in as well. So or maybe the opportunity costs too. So for the SDR approach, that's a pretty business impacting workflow itself. If you're thinking about somebody just adding receipts to a piece of accounting software, that task itself isn't that value adding or highly impacting. However, what are the other things that person could do if they didn't have to spend 2 hours a day uploading receipts into a piece of accounting software? So these are just some of the things and considerations you need to think about to think about whether it's worthwhile actually automating a workflow.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that comes down as well to factor in is your own skill set and ability, and I guess the time it will take you to set up an automation. So if you can do something in 20 minutes, then even if it only takes you a few hours a month, it's probably worth doing. But you've got to build that skill set to be able to know how to put automations together. So yeah, I mean, if you look at your weekly, you'll be able to find something in your schedule which you do pretty regularly, and is worth starting with this, and then you start with that and you build a bit of a skill set, and hopefully you can get faster and faster at knocking automations together, and then that return on investment becomes more feasible for other tasks and workflows. Arthur also asked, roughly how much time did you spend with the client to get to this stage?
So I'll do a shameless plug, maybe Arthur at this point, but so my company TrueBricks, we essentially do one-day audits or one-day AI audits for organizations, where we go in person, and then depending on the size of the organization, we either sit down with key people across the company or key people within a department, and then literally sit with them, understand what they're doing on a day-to-day, and watch them at their desks going through certain workflows to really understand, okay, what are the tasks people are carrying out each day, and how can we help power them by automating some of these tasks with AI. So that's typically all we need to really identify some AI opportunities, just one day in person. But if you're maybe a business owner or a team lead, want to do this yourself, the way to do it is literally just sit down with your team members and just ask them to take you through their general day-to-day and take you through the workflows and processes that they're doing.
And
then if you have anything to add, Andy.
No, yeah. It took me, so this was internal for us. It probably took me a few days to get the Google Sheet automation with the app script firing. The bubble no code tool was a much bigger investment of time, but that was probably only a couple of months really to get a basic MVP that was better than the Google Sheet version, but a bit easier to use. So yeah, a few days for the MVP, and that was because I was doing it from scratch, never done it before. And then for the bubble no code app, probably a couple of months. So much bigger investment. Final question was, how do you know which tools to use at each stage without going on a huge long learning journey? There seems to be a lot of options tools. I think done is better than perfect. I think the most important thing that you do is just you get something basic knocked together as quickly as possible. Once you've got something basic working or not working, then you can start to get a little, and it's starting to like, okay, how can we scale this? How can we make this better? Because it's worth, you're doing a workflow it's doing really well, but you can make improvements. That's when you can invest time in being like, okay, if we swap out this tool for that, it will improve. I think models, just go with ChatGPT unless it's a specific use case. But if you've got something working that you're using a lot, like our technical assessment marking, there's probably remit for us to sit down as a team and be like, can we improve the marking accuracy by looking at other models? But that's much further down the line when you're already generating a serious return on that. In terms of like Zapier, Make or NAN, again, I think like just get using something. The difference is the cost is relatively negligible when you're starting out. And if something doesn't work or doesn't do what you need, that's when you go away and research other tools. So don't overthink it, get started and get something delivered.
Yeah.
Haven't had anyone suggest any.
All good. Maybe it's a homework exercise, but what I'll just add onto the which tools to choose as well. So definitely, I mean, there's a new tool coming out every day, especially within the AI industry. So it can be overwhelming, but as Andy alluded to, just picking one and starting small is the best way to go. So if you're using something like NA10 to automate a workflow, maybe don't worry about the huge automation which is going to power your entire business straight away. Just start thinking about, okay, what's one thing that would really just help solve a bit of a niggle in my day-to-day first, build a small workflow automation for that, to then get familiarized with the tool, and then you can then that brings more ideas, and then you can grow from there. In terms of learning though as well, there are so many YouTube channels and YouTube videos out there which I've found really valuable, which really gives you some great onboarding on how to use some of these tools. And again, they're no-code tools, so the point is they're built for people which aren't necessarily engineers, so they are built to hopefully be intuitive to pick up quickly.
Cool. We've stuck in some basic questions in the poll section. If you want to visit bottom right to answer some of those, we'd love your feedback on whether you found this useful. First and foremost, if you can give us a score, we want to potentially turn this into something more ongoing. We're also thinking about whether it'd be worth doing a training course of some sort, or whether we just do ongoing webinars looking at different use cases. So your feedback will be really useful for that. So if you could answer those 3 questions in the poll section in the bottom right, that'd be really helpful. And yeah, thanks for joining. Really, the kind of only sign off from us is yeah, we'd love to connect with all of you and stay in touch. We might do more events or produce more material in the near future on this. Here are our LinkedIns, and I'm also running a founders club, which is specifically for founders who are building businesses, and as part of that, we want to get more conversations like this, founders sharing ideas. So yeah, if you want to join that, you're welcome to use the link to kind of sign up to the WhatsApp community group chat we've got, and we post some regular events in there. So that's it from me. Joe, I don't know if you want to sign off.
Perfect. No, thanks for joining, and yeah, I hope that's been useful, and thanks for having me, Andy, as well.
All good. Thanks for your expertise. Thank you very much, guys. Speak to you all soon. Bye.